I'm 77 years old, and for most of my life, I believed love was supposed to hurt. Not all the time, not in obvious ways, but quietly, like a dull ache you learn to live with. I thought love meant enduring, staying, forgiving. Even when it broke something inside you, I thought if I could just be patient enough, soft enough, understanding enough, then one day, love would feel safe. It didn't. I didn't grow up hearing words like healthy relationship. I grew up hearing, marriage is hard. Men are just like that. You don't leave. So I didn't. I stayed. I adjusted. I shrank. I remember a night when I was in my early 30s, sitting on the edge of the bed. The room was dark. My husband was asleep. We hadn't spoken all evening, not after another argument that ended the same way. Silence. I stared at my hands and thought, maybe this is just what love feels like. Not warmth, not safety, but heaviness. That thought followed me for decades. I didn't come up with this belief on my own. I absorbed it. I watched my mother stay, even when she was unhappy, even when she cried in the kitchen at night. She never called it abuse. She never called it loneliness. She called it marriage. She would say, love is sacrifice. Love is patience. Love is staying even when it hurts. No one ever said, love should feel safe. No one ever said, you deserve to be treated gently. So I grew up believing pain was normal, that wanting more was selfish, that expecting tenderness was unrealistic. When I fell in love for the first time, I didn't ask, how does he treat me? I asked, how much can I endure? That became my measurement. Not respect, not kindness, endurance. If I could survive it, I called it love. Looking back now, that breaks my heart. But at the time, it felt responsible. It felt grown up. It felt like being a good woman. My first serious relationship felt intense. Not calm, not steady, intense. He could be charming, funny, attentive, and then cold, critical, distant. I didn't see that as a warning. I saw it as a challenge. I thought, if I love him better, he will become better. So I tried harder. I became quieter, kinder, more careful with my words. I learned how to sense his moods, how to avoid certain topics, how to walk on emotional glass. I told myself, this is what commitment looks like. But commitment should not feel like fear. I stopped sharing my opinions, stopped talking about my dreams, stopped asking for things, because asking caused tension, and tension meant I was failing. Slowly. My world got smaller, not because he demanded it, but because I adjusted myself. That's an important distinction. No one forced me. I volunteered, because I thought that was love. I didn't notice myself disappearing. You never do. It happens quietly. The moment that cracked everything open was small. It was a Sunday afternoon. I was in the kitchen, cooking soup. He was in the living room watching television. I asked him a simple question, nothing important. Just, do you want carrots in the soup? He didn't answer. I asked again, still nothing. I walked into the living room. He looked at me and said, why do you always bother me with stupid questions? Not yelling, not screaming, calm, almost bored. Something inside me collapsed, not because of the words, but because of how normal they felt. I stood there holding a wooden spoon, and suddenly I saw myself, not as a wife, not as a partner, but as someone who was slowly disappearing. I thought, if my daughter were standing here, would I tell her this is love? The answer was no. That was the first time I questioned it. Not out loud, not to him. Inside, here is the first hard truth I learned. Pain is not proof of love. Endurance is not devotion. Suffering is not romance. I had confused intensity with depth. If it hurt, I assumed it meant it mattered. If it was difficult, I assumed it was meaningful. But real love does not require you to disappear. Real love does not require you to become smaller. Real love does not punish you for existing. I spent years asking the wrong question. Not, Is this relationship healthy? But can I survive this? That question kept me stuck, because humans can survive almost anything, but surviving is not the same as living. You can survive and still slowly die inside. I did. I became numb. I stopped expecting kindness. I stopped expecting softness. I told myself, this is just how relationships are. That lie kept me trapped longer than any person ever did. The most dangerous lies are the ones we repeat to ourselves. Here is the second hard truth. You can be in a relationship and still feel completely alone. I was. We lived in the same house, slept in the same bed, shared meals, shared responsibilities, but I felt invisible, not seen, not heard, not considered. I stopped telling him when I was sad, because it annoyed him. I stopped sharing my thoughts, because it caused arguments. I stopped asking for affection, because rejection hurt more than silence. So I chose silence. Silence feels safer, but silence also feels empty. Over time, I realized I was more careful with his feelings than he was with mine. That imbalance slowly teaches you something terrible, that your needs matter less, that your feelings are inconvenient, that love is something you earn by behaving. That is not love, that is control disguised as normal. Real love does not make you feel small. Real love does not require you to disappear. Real love makes space for you, even when you are imperfect. Here is the third hard truth. I believed silence kept the peace. I thought if I didn't complain, if I didn't confront, if I didn't ask for more, then the relationship would survive. And maybe it did survive, but it didn't grow. It didn't become warmer. It didn't become safer. It became hollow. Silence does not heal. Silence only postpones. It pushes problems underground. They don't disappear. They rot. I swallowed so many words, so many feelings, so many tears. I became very good at pretending everything was fine. On the outside, I looked calm. Inside, I was screaming. One day, I realized something painful. I had spent years protecting the relationship. While no one was protecting me, that realization was devastating, but it was also clarifying because it showed me the truth. I was not failing at love. I was trying to love in a place where love could not live. The moment that finally pushed me to the edge was not a big explosion, no dramatic fight, no screaming. It was quiet. I was 54. I was sitting alone in the car after grocery shopping. The bags were on the passenger seat. The engine was off. I didn't want to go home. Not because I hated my house, not because I was afraid, but because I felt heavy. I sat there and thought, if this is my life, for the next 20 years, I don't think I can survive it. That thought scared me more than being alone ever did. I realized something important. I was more afraid of continuing like this than I was of change. That was new. For the first time, staying felt more dangerous than leaving. That's when I knew. Something had to change. I didn't leave right away. I didn't suddenly become brave. I became tired. Tired of pretending. Tired of explaining. Tired of shrinking. That tiredness became my strength. I started with small acts of honesty. I told him when something hurt. I told him when I felt lonely. Not perfectly, not calmly every time, but truthfully. Sometimes he listened, sometimes he didn't. That taught me another truth. You cannot communicate someone into caring. You can only observe. I began imagining a different life, not a perfect one, not a dramatic one, a peaceful one, a life where I didn't feel afraid to speak, a life where my feelings weren't a burden. That image kept me going. Slowly, I stopped believing I deserved pain. That belief changed everything. Here is the fourth hard truth. No one can love you in the way you refuse to love yourself. I spent most of my life waiting for someone to treat me gently enough so I could finally feel worthy, waiting for someone to choose me so I could believe I mattered. But love does not start with being chosen. It starts with choosing yourself. That idea once sounded selfish to me, cold, wrong, but now I understand. Choosing yourself does not mean you stop loving others. It means you stop abandoning yourself. I began doing small, ordinary things. I rested when I was tired. I said no without explaining. I stopped apologizing for having feelings. I took walks alone. I sat with my own thoughts. At first, it felt empty. Then it felt quiet. Then it felt peaceful. Peace was unfamiliar, but beautiful. For the first time in my life, I wasn't waiting to be saved. I was becoming safe for myself. That changed how I saw love. Love was no longer something I begged for. It became something I allowed, something I participated in, something I chose. Here is what I know now. Real love is calm, not boring, not empty, calm. It does not make your stomach twist with fear. It does not make you walk on eggshells. It does not make you question your worth. Real love feels safe. You can breathe. You can speak. You can be quiet. You can be imperfect. And you are still welcome. Real love does not require you to prove yourself. It does not require suffering as payment. It does not ask you to shrink. It does not punish you for having needs. Real love has disagreements. Real love has difficult conversations. But real love also has repair, apologies, growth, care. I used to think love was supposed to be dramatic. Big highs, big lows. Now I know. That roller coaster was not passion. It was instability. Peace is not boring. Peace is healthy. Peace is what your nervous system feels when you are not in danger. I wish someone had told me that when I was young. I wish someone had said, if it hurts all the time, it's not love. At 77, you don't replay every mistake. You replay patterns. You start to see the shape of your life, not individual moments, but the story they formed together. And I see a woman who tried very hard to be loved, not in loud ways, not in selfish ways, in quiet ways, by being useful, by being easy, by being patient. I don't hate her. I don't judge her. I understand her. She was doing the best she could with what she knew, but I do grieve for her, for the years she spent believing pain was normal, for the nights she cried quietly so no one would hear, for the dreams she never spoke out loud. That grief is real, but it does not own me, because I also see something else. I see a woman who survived, a woman who learned, a woman who finally chose herself. Late, but not too late. You don't need a perfect past to deserve a gentle future. You don't need to erase your mistakes. You need to stop repeating them. That is enough. If you take nothing else from my story, take this. Love is not supposed to hurt. Not quietly, not constantly, not as a way of life. Love will challenge you. Love will ask you to grow. But love will not require you to disappear. If you are in a relationship that feels like survival, that is not love. If you feel afraid to speak, that is not love. If you believe you must earn kindness, that is not love. You deserve a love that feels safe. You deserve a love that feels steady. You deserve a love that feels like home, including the love you give yourself. I spent most of my life believing love meant enduring pain. I was wrong. Love means choosing yourself. Love means choosing honesty. Love means choosing peace. If you feel something inside you right now, that small ache, that quiet recognition, listen to it. It is not weakness. It is wisdom. You are not broken. You are not too late. You are not asking for too much. You are asking for what you were always meant to have. If this message meant something to you, let me know in the comments. And if you want more honest stories like this, subscribe, not for me, for the part of you that still believes love can be gentle.